Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where an actual statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates and information, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, and for some extra free picks on TikTok. All links in the description. This college basketball episode covers select games scheduled to be played on Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for a primer. Otherwise, the goals of this episode are to share key information about these games, give you a few things to think on, and explain how certain plays are being made. We never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with us or against us before investing your hard-earned money. Remember that Sideline has graded plays on every single game, but as always, take what you like and leave the rest. If you have questions about these or other games, the best place to get those answered is on our Discord chat, which can be accessed through Patreon, link in the show description. As always, remember there are no locks in gambling, so what Sideline provides are loves, likes, and leans that is A, B, and C grades. Indicate its confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. We're only covering a subset of games in this episode, so for the full slate of picks, check out the Google Sheet linked in the show description or on the website homepage for all the picks and projections. Lastly, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as we'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, the UMass game just ended, and they were up 27, I believe, at one point. They were up like 21 with like 3 minutes to go and didn't cover 15. I feel like I'm trying to bring the energy, but after a beat like that, it's tough to bring it.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I need like a cool down period.
It is very difficult. I have to say that is why Jake is usually on this show, because a day with 7 games. And if it were me, I would have said, you know what, we can mail today in. But Jake was here giving you picks yesterday because that's the type of guy that he is. But that's okay. I'm going to give him a little rest here. He doesn't have to deal with bear the weight of this UMass loss. I'll bear it for him in his stead, and then I'll get 6 days off from doing So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I feel like we're all bearing the weight of that loss. I tweeted about this too. You know, I always talk about the bad beats, they do balance out in the long run. Sometimes you go days where they don't. Sometimes you go weeks where they don't. Sometimes maybe even a whole month, right, where they don't balance out. And the more games you bet, the quicker it's going to balance out. That doesn't mean bet games you don't like. I always just tell people bet the most amount of games that you're comfortable betting. There's no need to limit yourself unless you don't like it. If you don't like it, limit yourself, right? But otherwise, that's why we play more games, because the more games you get, the more likelihood that is going to balance out. That with a smaller sample size, you're more likely to have good luck or bad luck. And that just starts off the week with a bad note. IUPUI, you know, people betting them 6.5. They lose by 7. Now, of course, they shouldn't have lost by 7. They hit a dumb 3 thing. They should have lost by 10. So I mean, that wasn't really as close of a loss as it looked like. But that was fine. I wasn't even that bitter about that one until the UMass win, and now I'm just bitter about all of it.
Yeah, yep, completely understandable.
All right, well, we got a good Tuesday slate here for you. We could bounce back from some of that. And I think the rest of Monday's going pretty well for us. So there is that at least. Again, we record before the games are all done, so we don't really know exactly how the whole night went. But so far, it's looking okay. Before we get to Tuesday's slate, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you'll miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. I already mentioned the Patreon, but check it out if you haven't yet. Lots of great benefits we found there above and beyond what we do here, including plays of the day. Starts at just $3 per month. www.patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor. But even if you're not there, we're still thrilled to have you here. Because let's get to it. All lines courtesy of Bet Online. Set up link in the show description. Current as of the time of this recording on Monday night. I think there were 8 A plays that we've already locked in and again made available to our starter level patrons. They've already seen the plays that the model loves the most, the one that you love the most of all of them. My goodness, this is a big number here. 7 p.m. Central, North Florida at Houston. Houston is laying a whopping 28 points, but get this, the model says it should be 31. We talk about the number moves towards the model, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5, whatever amount of times. I'm a little bit nervous that if you're watching this on YouTube in the morning, not if you got it right after we locked, right? But if it's in the morning, or maybe even if it's like late morning into the afternoon, I'm a little bit nervous this number is going to be out to about 33 or so, because that's about probably where it should be, to be honest. This feels really short. It's a big number, but Cousin Jared, walk us through why this number should actually be bigger than it is.
I know they're ranked number 1, so I'm not breaking any news here. But guys, I think Houston's really good. They have not given up more than 56 points in a game this season, and that's really unbelievable, having played 7-8 games at this point.
And I'm not sure North Florida is going to get anywhere near 56, to be honest.
No. And when you compare both, I would just say overall, don't overthink this one. When you look at who these teams have played, Houston has victories against similar type competition, victories of 48, about 38, another one by about 38 points, one by 31 points. They had one game where they won by almost 50. I mean, they have just crushed the competition that is on North Florida's level. And similarly, North Florida has played a couple of big name teams, and they lost to Kentucky by 40, and they lost to Gonzaga by 41. So I have seen nothing from either of these teams that made me think. I think North Florida is going to score about 50 points, and I think Houston's going to score about 90, and that feels about right. So I think 28 is way too low. I would probably play this at 31. What Sideline says, like you said, if it was at 33, probably would play it at 33.
I would like it a little bit less, because you never really know, and all those numbers do have a little bit of value, a couple percentage points on each one, right? But yeah 33, I'd probably be like, that's probably still the right side. Like, I don't like it as much there, but I'd still probably do it, because I'm like you in my head. I was thinking like 90 to 50-ish sounds about right for this game, because I don't see North Florida really getting much past 50, if that. And Houston's offense is so good. And when they play better teams, they do kind of slow it down and look for better possessions. Because these weaker teams, they can get good looks really quick, and they can score really quick. And their defense is good. They don't allow points. I mean, they're really good, right? That's basically what I just said. Again, like you said, I don't think we're breaking any news there. So we're going to lay the 28 with Houston, because Jared, that is your A-plus play of the day. I'm going to give you another A play here that I like. James Madison, 7 p.m. Central, getting 11 points at Virginia. Sideline says it should only be 10. Virginia, as good as they are, 3-4 against the spread this year. So it's not like they've really been a covering machine. They are playing really well, and they played really well. And when they've covered, they've tended to cover against good competition where the number's been really close. They've tended to cover those games, Michigan being the exception. I think the other big games they played, they covered. And the bigger numbers, they haven't covered as much. This one's in between, but I think this James Madison team is pretty good. They're on track. I think the way they've been improving to be one of those, I think there's an outside shot that they are one of those bubble teams, even without winning the conference. Like, they've got a shot at that, which is crazy to think about, because a lot of these mid-majors don't have a chance unless they win their conference, right? But James Madison's playing well enough that if they this is a big game that they need to, if they come out and win, big resume game for them. Obviously, if not looking to win their conference, can get them in. But I think a pretty good team can hang in there. It means a lot to them. Obviously, we always talk about the in-state rivals for some of these schools, like App State playing, North Carolina, right? James Madison playing the Virginia, right? It means a lot for these teams. I think they can hang in there, lose by single digits, and get us the cover here at plus 11. That takes us to the best B side. Cousin Jared, of all the B plays here, the one that you were highlighting is Charleston, laying 13 points at Presbyterian. I feel like Presbyterian's just been an auto fade. They are pretty highly variable, but for the most part, their variability has lended themselves to making us money by fading them. And so given how much money Charleston's made us, this feels like a pretty easy marriage. What is your take on it?
Again, don't overthink these things, people. Presbyterian is 2-7. Charleston is about 7 or 8-1. Charleston's only loss on the season has been to North Carolina, who, is North Carolina, maybe not really great this season, but still a very good team. And honestly, when Charleston they've beat some other good teams. So they crushed Davidson, who's a pretty solid team. They beat pretty good Colorado State team by 10 points. They beat Virginia Tech by 2 points. They also recently just crushed Citadel by 22. That same Citadel team beat Presbyterian by 12 points. And so I know we don't want to get caught up in the transitive property too much, but I feel like we've got enough evidence here to say that Charleston, really good team, takes care of business, has taking care of business against much better teams than what Presbyterian is. At the same time, Presbyterian has just had some real clunkers this season, and Charleston can score points at a rate that I don't think Presbyterian's going to be able to keep up. So I think this could be a situation where Charleston is up 20 late, and even if they let off the gas, we still got 7 points of cushion here to work with. And I think Charleston, again, just don't overthink this, people. Lay the 13 points with Charleston. They are a much, much, much better team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to give you a bonus B-side. Are you ready for this, people? It's Charleston, laying 13 at Presbyterian. Of all the B grade plays, this is the one that I like the most. And I wanted to come back and I'm going to say, like, just like because of Jared, last time we were on here, we had a game where we both put our record on the line. We both were, we're going to grade whether we won or lost. The same thing here. I'm going to grade this one as well. For me, of all the B grade plays, this is the one that I get why the model can't give it an A grade, because the model only says it should be 13 and a half. And there's at some point where, I mean, I guess I coded the thing, but the point is, I built the thing, I coded the thing, whatever. But the point is that in general, most of the time, getting to the A grade confidence, you want more than just a half a point difference. And so that's why the model isn't giving it an A grade. But there's other factors that go into the algorithm and the grading. It's not just the point differential and the projection. One of those things has to do with the fact that Charleston 8-0 against the number, Presbyterian 2-6 against the number. We've backed Charleston all 8 times. We've faded Presbyterian all 8 times. Combined, that's 14-2. So the model's kind of taking that into account, and it doesn't move too much because I think, we can kind of get caught up in small runs, but there are those teams every year that it does just take a little bit longer, and the model's just kind of going, okay. And I think that's what it's doing here with this Charleston Presbyterian, that it's giving it a B grade, even though it only projects it a small amount apart. But again, 14-2 with these two teams, just by playing Charleston, fading Presbyterian, like you said, don't overthink it. There are no locks in gambling. Doesn't mean that they will cover. It just means I think that this number is still too short, that given the fact that the model says 13.5, with how they've performed against the number, or given the sideline says 13.5, given how these teams have performed against the number, I would have needed it to be 14, maybe 15 before I said that was too much for me to play Charleston. So a number like 13, I think it's still a great investment. And that'll take us to the must-see TV segment. Because Jared, you already got a smile on your face because look, it's on the screen there. I'll just let you have it. North Texas at UT Arlington. Of all the games, I don't know. I'll let you, the floor is yours.
I'll take you back to last season in the college football show when we get the good, the bad, and the best of each weekend in college football. That was the thing we did. And the best thing one weekend was when Illinois beat Penn State about, I'm going to say 19-17 in 9 overtimes. Yeah. And I thought it was the best thing that happened that weekend, because it is one of just the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen happen on a college football field. And I'll even go back to earlier this season in college football. Miami, I think, beat Virginia 14-12 in quadruple overtime. Somebody won the game 14-12.
Somebody won it.
Who.
Nobody won. The fans didn't win. The teams didn't win. Nobody won.
The underbetters won.
That's won. Which is crazy when you get to that many overtimes, you assume that you've lost your under.
yeah, but it was good to go. It was never in doubt. This game is going to be similar. Must-watch TV, can't take your eyes away from what's happening on the screen. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I want to watch because I think there are going to be so few points in this game. I am going to officially be on the under 115 points, and I think the 115 is being gracious to these teams. I'm just going to read off to you scores from some of the teams in the games that these two teams have participated in. So I'm not giving you the totals from these games. I'm just giving you individual scores from teams that have participated in these games. 59, 41, 56, 38. UT Arlington played a game that ended 59-38, 43, 59, 61. That's just UT Arlington. Let's go to North Texas. 45, 51. They had a game in 55-51, 47, 54, 46, 52. North Texas had a game where they scored 33 points. They lost a game 63-33. And then they also played Southern Nazarene. Who can forget the great Southern Nazarene? I'm going to go with their insignia as a lightning bolt. I don't really know what that stands for. That game ended 47-53. People, there is going to be so few points in this game. I don't know if it's excellent defense. I think their shooting's just meh. But I'm telling you, this is going to be something to watch. So be glued to your screens and watch this game go easily under 115.
It feels a little bit like a train wreck. And some train wrecks are like there's explosions and there's like fast moving things happening and you can't take your eyes off of it because the carnage, right? And this feels like a slow train wreck where you're like, it's so slow that I'm thankful. I don't think anyone's going to get hurt in this train wreck. Like the trains are colliding, but it's all such slow motion. Like everybody's just going to walk off without a scratch.
It's like when the highways are iced over and people can't stop. And it's just like this very slow moving line of cars colliding with each other.
And there's like, and they bump each other. It's like bumper cars, but like no cars actually hurt because the cars aren't moving fast enough to actually do any damage. It's just like, they're just kind of like bumping around,
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be.
For the record, the model has an A grade play on UT Arlington plus 9.5. And I think part of the reason why is it's projecting only 118 points. And we talked about the outliers and the totals. Like, don't really read too much of the high totals and the low totals. Like, it's really hard for it to project there at the edges. So part of it, I think the model is saying, look, we don't expect a lot of points. And so getting 9.5 points makes a lot of sense, because this game could easily finish like you said, 52 to 45 or something stupid. And it's hard to run away with the game when there aren't many points scored. Model has an A grade play on UT Arlington, and Cousin Jared are taking the under 115.
Yeah, this isn't the shake and bake segment, but if you had to pick one, this is probably the one that I would pick.
This is probably the one to parlay the plus points and the under. Right? Duly noted. I'm going to give you a must-see TV game that you probably actually want to watch. Iowa and Duke. Duke's a 3.5 point favorite. The model's locked in a B grade play on Iowa plus 3.5. It should be the opposite of that first game. Total in this one's 146.5. So we're expecting a lot of points, and this one should be a lot of fun. A neutral site game up in New York. The game following the Illinois-Texas game, which should also be a fantastic game to watch. I like grab the 3.5 here with Iowa, or like the money line as well. I think these two teams are pretty similar. I think Duke might be a tiny bit better. I don't think they're 3.5 points better on a neutral court. I think that we're paying a little bit of a Duke tax here. So whether it's on the plus odds of the money line or getting the 3.5 points, I think the 3.5 makes a ton of sense. This feels like a one possession type game. Most of the time they play it like there's, 1 out of 10 times Duke runs away, 1 out of 10 times Iowa runs away, 1 out of 10 times Duke wins handily, 1 out of 10 times Iowa wins handily. The other 6 times, I feel like it's a tight ball game. And in those, grabbing 3.5 points makes a lot of sense. So I think we're just getting a little bit of a benefit here from the Duke tax. So again, the model's got a bigger plan on Iowa plus 3.5, and I like that as well. I can't really get to that number. I can get to Duke -1, -1.5, maybe -2. But anything above that just seems like you're getting a gift here. So I'm going to recommend Iowa plus 3.5. And a game that you do want to watch. No shade there, Cousin Jared.
Yeah.
All right, to the overtime segment here. A couple late night games for us in this one, because Jared, your overtime game. Cal State Bakersfield at San Jose State. Cal State Bakersfield getting 9 is a B grade play according to the model. But you're actually taking us to the total in this one as well. What is that play?
Let's hope this game doesn't go to overtime, because we're going to be on the under here as well. Going to be on the under 122. I've mentioned it before on the show. Cal State Bakersfield is like one of those North Texas teams, like a UT Arlington, like an Air Force, like a Fresno State, where you could just set the total like almost as low as you want. And it's like that. It is completely within the realm of possibility. In games that Cal State Bakersfield has played this season, there's had games where there's been 35 points, 44 points, 43 points, 54 points, 49 points, 54 points, just not a lot of offense. They had a game where they got to 67, but that was in overtime. So again, let's just hope not for overtime in this game. And they did have a game that got all the way to 136, but that is against A&M Corpus Christi, who had a game last week go over about 160. And so I don't think that you need to be scared off by the one high scoring game that Cal State Bakersfield has played this season. A&M Corpus Christi is just a little bit of a different animal. So I say let's go under 122 in this game.
All right, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, because Jared, because we talk about some of these teams, like the North Texas and Bakersfield and Air Force, right? A couple of these teams. We can't just blindly go under forever and always, because we understand the concept that the odds makers that they have models as well. Now they are not just like we are. They're not just blindly following a model. They are using models. They're also using other pieces of information. They're moving lines, etc. They will catch up, right? So I feel like there might be some viewers out there who are saying, we know they're a slow team. The bookmakers know that too. They're adjusting the number down, right? At what point do you say the number has caught up, or do you just say, like there's certain numbers you're looking for, or is it more of a like, they probably just haven't quite caught up, and I know I'm not going to win all of them, but if I play all of them and I win 60% of them, or even 55% of them, that's still a good investment. Like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I think Air Force would be a good example for me of a team that when they can dominate the pace, they can – if Air Force plays the way they want to, they're going to keep the game low scoring. But if they play against a bad defense, or they play against a team that wants to go a little faster, they can score some points. So I really try to look at the teams where they just have nothing on their schedule. And we're starting to get to where teams have played enough games, where they've played enough different types of teams where you can kind of get an idea of, okay, in this type of matchup, they'll play this way. In this type of matchup, they'll play this way. Like I mentioned with Air Force and even Fresno State last week, I'm blanking on who Fresno State played, but Fresno State played somebody and they scored like 80 points. I could not believe it. So that's one of those you file in the bank. You say, okay, when
I think it was Irvine. And that was bonkers. It was very surprising that Irvine was in such a high-scoring game like that. Kind of like, shit, okay, note that Irvine, really good defensive team, but when they're playing, maybe they won't always go under, right?
Yes, exactly. I have not seen anything from Cal State Bakersfield at that point. So this is one of those things that, like, until I see them do something, and even like, if the game ends up at 127, it's like, okay, well, that I'm not too far off. That's something I'm still watching. If this game ends up at like 140, then that goes into the bag of, okay, I'm paying attention to this. This is something I'm watching now. I'm not just going to blindly, follow my thoughts on this. I'm basically going to do this until they show me something different. And a lot of these teams have shown me something different at this point in the season, but Cal State Bakersfield is not one of them.
Right. So it's one of those, you're kind of like eyeing the trend, getting a couple wins on them, kind of, not double, not putting all your money back into it, but just, keeping on that same, one unit at a time. And just kind of at some point when you learn a little bit, say, okay, now we've made our money off of them. Now we've got to pick our spots a little bit more. And then you're kind of looking for what type of team they're playing. It's that sort of thing. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, or they've played their last game. They played Dartmouth, and I wasn't touching that one because Dartmouth has had a pretty good offense. And I didn't think Dartmouth was going to score 79, but you could have told me that Dartmouth was going to score 65, and that was going to kill a line that was probably like 129 or something like that. Yeah. So it's also you kind of got to take into account the team that they're playing as well.
And that one, I just have to go off the rails for just 1 second on that one before we come back. Was one of the money line plays of the day. And I highlighted, I think in my write-up, I said I would not be surprised if Dartmouth won that game by double digits. And sure enough, I think they won by like 15 or something.
25.
Was it 25? Okay, I had the yeah, they crushed them. What a horrible travel spot that was for Bakersfield to play one game traveling. I think Dartmouth's in New Hampshire. Like,
it is, yeah.
This a long ways away from California, Bakersfield, which is just an insult to injury in quasi Southern California, right? It's north of LA, right? But it's still Southern California, more or less. Yeah. To New Hampshire, just to fly out there and play a game, and they come back. Like there wasn't even like an extra game that they're sitting around out there. I was like, and that's some of the things we try to identify, right, with the plays of the day, right, where the model isn't quite seeing the exact. It's not built to see the schedule, right? But that's where we're looking at some of those spots and being like, hey, this is a terrible scheduling spot for this team in that situation. Kind of like you said too, also just kind of, I feel like that whole game, just throw that out the window in your assessment of both of those teams, because that was all about the spot and really nothing else. Moving on to the other overtime game, I've got another light one for you here. 10 p.m. Central, Nevada 0 at Pepperdine. It's a pick 'em. We just need Nevada to win this game here. Sideline says it should be Nevada -3. Both of these teams have overperformed the model. I think Pepperdine's a solid team, but Nevada, I really like what I've seen from them. Every time I've been a little hesitant on them, they've come through and shown me that they're better than I expect. And I think Pepperdine kind of the same way. And that's kind of my point in this, is that Sideline says this should be Nevada -3 on the road. And so since both teams have impressed me relative to the model expectations, then I expect on average just to be a game that Nevada wins by 3. Don't know what one outcome is going to happen. Anything can happen. Nevada can win by 20. Pepperdine can win by 10, right? And none of those things would be the craziest things in the world, but just in general, both these teams have overperformed to the point where I think that number of the model set's pretty good. Nevada -3 is probably, I think, what it should be. So getting them to win here, I think, just makes a lot of sense. It's an A grade to the model, and it's another one that I'm recommending here in the overtime spots. Because Jared, any parting words now for people's Tuesday slate of college basketball?
Let's hope for very few points tomorrow.
I feel like that's your life motto in general, that you like to root for not a lot of points.
That is accurate.
All right. Yes. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy the sports betting content we brought on this channel. It's dropped right to your feed. Back again tomorrow with more college basketball betting content. And until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.